Hey there, hunters. Welcome back to the Gunners Guild. So, really quick video today. I'm just going to go over my mouse and keyboard config settings here in Monster Hunter Wilds so that some people can get an idea of what I changed to get the most comfortable gunning controls that I could find. Not saying it's perfect, everyone's unique, it'll never be perfect, but here's what I changed in my settings and why. So first, let's go through the normal options. Page 3 of the first tab, I turned off the Secre Auto Explore because I hate that. Every time I get on my Secre, it automatically starts running somewhere. Personally, don't like it, so I turned off that. The next tab, page 1, I disabled the auto sheath. Again, I don't really like the automatic things, so I prefer to just sheath when I want to sheath, not just randomly after the monster leaves the area. Below this, I changed the keyboard directional controls from default type 2 to type 1. What this does is that it makes your input directions based upon the camera direction rather than where the hunter is facing. And this is important, especially for light bowgun, because the combat slide in rapid mode would often go in the wrong direction because I'd be inputting the dodge like mid slide and it would slide me in the wrong direction and often right into the attack I was trying to invade. So this is a big one for light bowgun. In the next page, I changed the call sec rate controls from type 1 to type 3, which isn't a huge deal, but allows you to call your sec rate with the standard, talk accept button, F in my case. The next tab over here is camera controls, and here on page 2, I changed the camera distance to the highest so you can see more of the player and monster, and this is more of just a quality of life change, but I do recommend it. I also changed the focus camera from enabled to disabled because personally, I don't like when the camera is locked on a monster, and then the monster jumps or does a lot of crazy movements, and the camera tries to follow it and just jitters around, and it's very disorienting, so I disabled that. In the next page, I also disabled the auto centering of the camera, so again, no automation, all player controlled camera. Further down on this page, I changed the reticle direction type from type 1 to type 2. This again changes the way the reticle aims from being based upon the direction the hunter is looking to based upon the direction that the camera is facing. I just find this more fluid as the camera will snap less when I aim. Lastly, on the fourth page of the camera controls, I disabled monster sighting camera. If you have this enabled, which is by default, anytime that you see a large monster, your player is going to stop and the camera pans to that monster for like 6 seconds to highlight it, and it's super annoying when you accidentally pass by a monster or want to try to get a sneak attack in. And this occurs every time you see a large monster, not just like the first time you see it. And then last thing in the tabs up here is a minor audio setting. Feline language is always required, no voice for cats. Alright, so with that out of the way, let's go into the actual keybinds. In Wilds, you can set keybind options specific to each weapon, which is outstanding. Today we're just going to look at the bowguns, since for the most part they're going to run on the same keybinds. You can make one for all ranged or just light and heavy bowgun, take your pick. Moving down into the dash settings, I removed the dash on press, thankfully that can be blank, and kept dash on hold with shift. Moving on, I changed items to Q to use, again personal preference, but I like that button. But you can use E or anything else you want, also acceptable. It's just, for me, Q is just there. Moving down to weapon controls, fire is left click of course, reload is R, gotta make this as much of a shooter as I can. Aim slinger while weapon is drawn is alt for me because I can press that with my thumb and don't really have to reposition my hand to use. In that same vein, I kind of threw away the keybind for slinger hold because I'd rather just not use that, but it can't be blank unfortunately. Now down here on this additional slinger control, this is when your weapon is sheathed or when you're in your sec rate, so aim on right click does work here and that is allowed. Now, and this is where controls start getting funky. So focus aim I have on left shift, which I think may be the default setting. I wish there was a better position for this, but thankfully we don't need to use focus shots all that often, so it is just a minor inconvenience at best because we can't really walk left and use it, but it is rather easy just to push left shift to get into focus mode. I just don't like gunning has 2 different aim modes. I'd rather the focus shot just be like shootable from the default right click aiming. Now guard and special ammo is here on left control and right below focus. This is used for things like landmines for light bowgun and guard for heavy bowgun. Thankfully the landmines aren't very good in wild, so I rarely have to push this button, but on heavy bowgun it's still pretty accessible to activate perfect guard in a timely manner. Also, I have this button bound on my mouse because I have a special mouse that I use for wilds, so it's kind of out of the way, but not really for me. Next down is switch modes on E. This is switching to and from rapid fire mode with light bowgun. Another thing I really wish we didn't have to do all the time, but we do. And this also loads your wyvern heart or special ammo for heavy bowgun. So this is used much more than focus or special actions, which is why it's right here on E and easily accessible. Next, in the slinger controls, unfortunately you can't have slinger shoot to be left click, despite the fact that you can't actually shoot or use your left click while you're aiming your slinger. So unfortunately this is on the default keybind of middle mouse click. Again, I wish there was kind of a better spot that I would have found to be like less intrusive to throw the slinger, but honestly I don't have any other better options. Moving down, we have the separate call buttons. I use tab as manual mode and caps lock as automatic. I prefer manual mode, and tab is much easier to press than caps lock for me, so tab it is. You can also throw away the caps lock key and put it somewhere else. Switching weapons is default to X, and that's fine with me. I don't really see a reason to move it. Z and N is the separate slow down and access separate pouch, which is again default keybinds that I actually approve of. They're things that you use, but not all that often, so they're just kind of down below. And then here in your item bar controls, we have browse items on scroll wheel. Again, this is a personal preference. You can also use the MO scroll here too. But as you can see right below this, I have MO scroll forward and back on my mouse 3 and 4 button, because I like this. It's a more consistent way to select MO for me personally. And so that's basically everything I changed. So I know it was kind of a lot of little things, but here's a display of what I have on my keybind set up as. Hopefully this is a little helpful to get people into using their mouse and keyboard for gunning at the very least. Bow controls, I'll need a little bit more time to do because I haven't really played all that much bow yet. I've been too focused with bow guns. But yeah, that's basically all for me. Thank you all for watching and good luck out there, hunters.